That's true too. So how's Jake Keeley in the wonderful land of rock and roll these days?
Well, I'm hanging in there. I'm, I'm doing pretty good actually.
I think you're doing really good.
Well, yeah, you don't see me waking up with my, never mind. Well, no, I better finish that because that could get that could be taken really out of context. Yeah, no, I'm feeling old and tired, and waking up every day is a chore. But once I'm awake and get a drink in me, everything seems a lot better.
Now I'm sure it's not that bad, Jake.
Well, yeah, I
Uh-huh.
might exaggerate a little bit.
Maybe. Now let's say with this new album, Patina, the reviewers are just making it look so good, and I have to say it is the truth. Your album sounds great, man, and
Ah,
the
yeah,
quality
thank
of
you.
it.
No, it's I don't know. I haven't seen any reviews of it yet, but it does make me happy. I know in the past I've said, and it's come back to haunt me, because I think they're missing the point I was making, where I've said that I basically I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks, and it's not that. It's that I don't make records anticipating what people want to hear. I just make records that I know I like listening to, and that and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But I'm human. I mean, if people do like it, it does make me happier.
Right.
And I don't know. Like I said, I haven't read any reviews. But if they're good, then it does honestly make me happy.
No, let's take a song like "A Painted Heart." Now you listen to the tonal balance of that song, and the way the guitars go in there, and the right effects are added. I mean, that's a good quality song, and well structured. I mean, that's my take on this.
Yeah, that was an unusual one. That was let me think about it for a second. I had the intro part, the verses. I had that, and yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And then, but I wasn't really sure where it was going to go after that, and we worked on it for a while, and then it. I do like that song a lot. That's one of my favorites on the record. It's yeah, and in the middle, I know I definitely wanted to try to tap into my inner oh God, see, I'm getting old. I can't remember names
Oh
anymore.
no, you'll get it in a minute.
The guitar player in Free. Okay, it was Paul
Oh my.
Kossoff.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I knew I wanted to try to tap into my inner Paul Kossoff on that song. So there's a lot of twists and turns in that particular song, and yeah, and tonally we did. I made really sure that I explored all the avenues as far as sounds and tones. I never considered myself to be one of those guitar players that just has an awesome tone. Say, for example, Eddie Van Halen. When he came out, everybody wanted that sound because
Right.
it was a great tone, and guitar players like that. Most guitar players, they look for that sound, that magic tone, and then they use that for the entirety of the record. And I don't blame them. If I could find a tone like that, I would do it too. I've always thought that my tone was just my. It was just the way I sounded. I never thought it was particularly awesome, but it is what it is. And for this record in particular, I made sure that every song, every part of every song, I would explore, because I had maybe 25 guitars to choose from, and probably 50 or 60 pedals to choose from, half a dozen amp heads, and a couple of different cabinets, and I would look, because I'd have a sound in my head, and like for Painted Heart at the beginning, I knew exactly what I wanted it to sound like, and then when it goes into other parts, I knew what it, and it wouldn't be one sound. So I had this huge, well, maybe not huge, but I had a lot of options for recording on this, and I explored all of them until I found the sound I was looking for. And I think you can, if you listen to the record in its entirety, you can hear that. It's not like I said, it's not like I have a guitar sound, and that's what I sound like through the record. Every song has its own special, are these cats fighting? Shut up! All right, there, I think I fixed it.
They'll be fine.
It was, and that's one of the reasons this record took so long. I wanted to make sure that every part in every song had its own sound that worked for it, and I think that's what you said, and I appreciate you saying that.
You're welcome, Jake. And like, let's say 60 pedals to choose from. I mean, how much time in a day does it take to go through that stuff? I mean, yeah. Where do you start, Jake?
It would take a while, but I had 60 pedals, but it's not every part demanded a pedal, and if it did, it was a specific one. I can say, for example, if I wanted a chorus type sound, then I'd have maybe one, two, three. I think I had about 8 different chorus pedals, and so I would plug them in, and then figure out which one was best. But and I don't know if it's just because I'm old, but it almost always ended up being the oldest pedal in the batch. Like for choruses, it was I almost always used the old, and I think it was late '60s when it came out. Was the old Boss Roland CE1? It's a big, ugly gray pedal that you have to actually plug into the wall. And like I said, maybe it's because I'm old and I would veer towards the old pedals and the old heads and the old guitars. But yeah, I would go through the pedals until I found the one that sounded right. And same with guitars, and same with amp heads, and same with the cabinets. I would make sure that I didn't not explore a piece of equipment that was maybe better than what I thought was a good sound.
Also, you said earlier, like, you don't value your tone as much, or you don't think of it as good, but are we talking to the right Jake Lee here? Your tone is, like, fabulous, man. Always was. Always will be.
well, thanks. Because I remember in Ozzy, when I first joined Ozzy, we were doing Bark at the Moon, Ozzy told me whatever I needed, and that was, do you play guitar?
Yeah, I do actually, and my tone is mimicking your tone.
Well, thanks. But, okay, then you'll appreciate this. When I were recording Bark of the Moon, Ozzy said, whatever you need, no expense spared, do whatever it takes for you to be happy with your sound. And so, I had people bringing in different Marshall heads, and I got to, buy every kind of speaker. I had a 412 cab, and I remember buying Fanes. I remember buying every different kind of Celestion you can get. I remember getting Altic Lansings, which I didn't even know if you can buy anymore. I would load that cabinet. Well, I wouldn't. I'd have somebody else do it.
Yeah.
But it was so fun to be able to say, okay, load the cabinet up with JBLs. Let's see what that sounds like, and go through all these different heads. I went through every kind of tube. Once I settled on my head, I had the guys go out and buy primers, Mullards. I had them buy at least a dozen different kinds of tubes, so I could figure out which tube sounded the best. And that was a luxury a lot of people don't have. But it also, at the end of the day, when I finally settled on everything, I just thought, wow, after all that trouble, my sound should be a whole lot better than what it is. And I've never been happy with my tone. And a lot of it is my technique. I'm a really aggressive player. Mm-hmm. I hit the strings really hard, and I think that forms the basis of my sound. Well, I think I've gone on enough about that. I've never been happy with my sound, but then I think most guitar players are like that.
A lot of them are, and it's very interesting. Someone like at your stature, of legendary, guitar playing, is so down to earth and humble, and respectful in that way. So I mean, that I'm sure the fans that are listening to this right now are just going to be saying like, "Wow, that's something you don't get out of an interview too often."
Well, and you get humbled by critics. I still to this day remember reading a review when The Ultimate Sin came out, and the guy said that I had a mosquito tone. I know.
It's like, what happened there?
How many years ago was that? That's 30 years ago, and I still remember that.
Yeah, but let's just say the critic didn't really listen to the album, obviously. Did he?
I don't know, but it still stings.
I wouldn't even take that one at all. Your Ultimate Sin sounds great, man.
But yeah, and it still happens, especially with the internet now. I read all the comments, and the trolls. I've come to accept the fact that a lot of the people that say bad shit about me are really just saying it because they like stirring shit up. Mm-hmm. I just assume they don't really mean it.
Right.
and that makes me feel better about myself. But yeah, it's funny how you can read 100 things that are all positive, and it's the one negative that sticks with you.
Yeah, I've talked to a band last week, and it's the same exact thing. It's like they just release something, and the people are like loving it, but then there's 100 people that hate it. So what do? Just go with the flow and go with the people that like it, and just never mind the rest, basically. Yeah.
And I've always adhered to that philosophy. It's and mostly it's just whatever I feel good about. If I think it's good, then I really I don't care what anybody else thinks. Well, I do, but I don't let it affect me. I don't let it affect my decisions, because you can't anticipate what people want, and if you do, you're kind of missing what a real artist aspires to, mm-hmm. and it's not pleasing the audience. That would be a happy after effect if they do like it. But if you're just trying to please the audience every time you write and record, then I think you're missing the whole point.
You got that right. Jake, how much time you got for this interview anyways?
Well, you're the last one.
Okay.
So I got all night.
Yeah, five series here now. Let's say, Jake, for your album cover, Red Dragon Cartel is pretty simplified, but it's still that new age type of look. You know, what's your take on this album cover you guys released?
The cover?
Yeah.
Interesting. Nobody's asked me about that. I was going for a more a simpler sort of cover. The first one, everything was rushed. We got the logo, which is the backwards R and then the D and the C. I came up with that pretty quickly, and then it was really other people that submitted artwork based on that, and it was a little busy to my eyes, like the first RDC record cover, and it was a little busy. And when it was originally submitted to the record company, they said it wasn't metal enough looking, so they changed it up, and to me it looked like a dozen other record covers of bands, of rock bands, and so I mean it was good enough. But this time around, I was looking for more simplistic, more basic, something that catches your eye right away, and I think we did it. It's still originally it was supposed to be a cutout. That's what we wanted. If you see the record cover, it would have been a white cover, and underneath it would have been the Patina guitar painting, and then the white cover was going to have cutouts so that you could see it was actually the Patina guitar underneath that was giving the color to the album cover. But no, I like the way it came out. I like the colors. It's I think it'll make for better merchandise anyway.
Yeah, and all the reverse on it. It looks great.
Oh, thanks.
Nothing wrong with that. And let's just go on a guitar style question here. Like, throughout the years, you've never played a whammy bar. Now, is that really correct? At least on stage, you haven't.
That is correct all the way up until Red Dragon Cartel. I never felt the need to have a whammy bar. I found my own little particular way of imitating one when I wanted one, and it was too easy for me. When I first got my Strat in 1975, I think, I worked at a music store just so I could eventually earn that, because I really wanted a Strat. And part of the reason I wanted the Strat was the bar, because Jimi Hendrix was my hero. And when I finally had enough money, and the guy, the owner, said, "Okay, pick out a Strat." There was maybe a dozen Strats in the store, and I went through all of them, and the one that sounded the best sonically, was the one guitar that didn't have a bar on it.
Wow.
And so I thought about it for a while, because I did want the bar. But I said, no, this guitar just sounds so much better than the other ones. There's no way I can pick another one. And so I picked that and learned how to make it sound like it had a bar, through various techniques and tricks, I guess. And it kind of became my thing, especially in the 80s, where Van Halen really popularized the whammy bar. Every other guitar player I knew had one, and I wanted to be different. I wanted to stand out. So I stuck to my guns as far as not using a bar. And I did that for a long time, and eventually, with the first Red Dragon Cartel record, eventually I think I made my point, as far as I don't need to use a bar. But I did, I used a Gretsch on that first record for one of the solos, and I used the Bigsby tailpiece that it had on it, and I'm not as adherent to that philosophy I had because, like I said, I think I made my point. And there are just some things that you can't do. I can try my best to imitate it, but like hitting a chord and then putting a vibrato on it, it's really hard to do without a bar. And for this new record, same thing. There was parts where I felt like it needed that, and more than say the Strat whammy bar style. I did use guitars that had Bigsby's on them. I love that vibrato. It's so smooth and subtle. So yeah, I don't. It's not a do or die thing for me anymore, and I will use guitars with vibratos on them,
Mm-hmm.
but probably not live. I'll try to stick to my guns there.
And you surely, certainly, I should say, show a lot of power. You know, every time you hear that hand going, you know, making that whammy bar type feel with your hands. You know, the pure guitar. It's a rarity.
Yeah.
You don't see it often.
No, and that's probably what people remember me most, is that I sounded like somebody who had a bar, but I didn't.
Yeah, and
But,
like that.
Yeah, and in Ozzy, I know in particular there was because I do the big neck bend, and I could get some really deep neck bends going, especially live when you have the adrenaline going through you. And there was parts. There was several times during the tour with Ozzy where I tried to break the neck. I said, okay, I'm going to do it because it would make for a great photo, right? And I tried. I really tried. I would put the headstock on the floor and then actually lean into the body and see if I could snap the neck, and I never could.
Yeah, like you do on the Bark at the Moon live concert there from '83. You tried to break that neck, and no, it's not breaking.
No.
So that wasn't. I was always wondering that. So that's not just like pretending. You're actually really hurting that guitar.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I'm a very aggressive guitar player, and I do think I remember a review of my playing back in the '80s, and I loved the way the guy worded it. He said it's like watching someone caress and then try to kill something in his hands, and he said that was one of the things that made he couldn't look away. He never knew whether I was going to try to just break that neck or try to caress some beautiful sounds out of it. And I like that opinion.
Now, Jake, I'm sure that when strings see your fingers come in, they're like kind of, oh no, Jakey Lee's coming to play me. Yeah.
Yeah. I ended up having to use bigger strings than maybe I normally would. I think at one point I was using 54s for the bottom E string, and it's because I would break so many strings live. Even on the last Red Dragon Cartel tour, I think I broke 3 strings in one song. At some point, there must be a video of it somewhere, because I sort of I wouldn't say I look forward to it, but I appreciate that if I break a string in the middle of a song, I appreciate that I have to rethink everything. I find that a challenge.
Right.
And I won't take the guitar off and swap it for one with 6 strings. I'll see if I can play the rest of the song on 5. And it's sometimes you come up with things you wouldn't normally have thought of because you don't have that string. And like I said, I find it a challenge. I think it makes it interesting. On that one song where I broke 3, that became a joke. Because after I broke the one, I kept on playing, and then broke a second one. And at first I'm like, oh, cool. now I really have to think this out. And then when I broke the third one, I just I remember there was a couple of guys, obviously guitar players, in front of me, and I looked at their faces, and they looked at mine, and I was like, oh shit, okay, okay, this has gone too far. I don't think and I did finish the song, but
Of course.
I wouldn't say it sounded all that great. You know?
Well, that's interesting. Now, let's say on that lovely subject, now right there, what you're talking about with the challenges and breaking strings and still keep on playing is called the old style of playing that you learned and you learned and you learned. You rewound those cassettes or vinyl records. Nowadays, kids and even older people have YouTube to learn everything. And you mentioned at one time in an interview or something that, which I enjoyed hearing you say it, it's like everybody's learning from the same source. And, there's no originality coming to any playing now compared to what you did back in the day, or the old LA players.
Yeah, I do think that. Because with the internet, and I have done it where I'll want to learn a song, and I'll hear a song and just wonder, okay, what are they playing there? And I'll want to learn it, and it's so easy to go on YouTube and look anything up, and but I don't leave it at that. I'll do it just to get the basics of the song and what the guitar is doing, but then I'll listen to the song on its own and figure out exactly what I think the guy is doing. And I'm afraid that because of that, guitar players are all gonna sound a lot more similar to each other
Right.
than they would have back in my day. Back in my day, I mean, okay, you play guitar, say
Yeah.
your basic Chuck Berry riffs.
Yeah.
If you're playing in say A, it's all based off the 5th fret. Your index finger's on the 5th fret to do all those bends. Because I never saw anybody play those. When I was learning them, I did it with my index finger on the 3rd fret. So you understand what I'm saying? I was in the wrong position, and I'm bending notes on the wrong strings,
To match.
trying to get what he's playing. And eventually I found out, oh shit, I got to move my fingers up. It's all easier here. But it made me play it differently. It gave me a whole different slant on it. And even though I was trying to duplicate what he was doing, I ended up doing it my own way. And I think that's going to be missing in a lot of players. There's because there wasn't that many guitar players when I was growing up, at least not locally for me. There's maybe 2 or 3, and every once in a while we'd get together and we'd play songs, and we'd all be playing it differently or in different positions, and hearing it not the same, not through the same ears, and that made things interesting. It really did, and like I said, I think the next really influential turn the guitar world on its head player is going to be somebody who didn't go on YouTube.
Mm.
It's going to be somebody I don't know, in the middle of Africa, maybe, in the Congo somewhere, that just happened to find a guitar and learn to play on his own without any outside influence.
Right.
And I think that's going to be the guy that the new Jimi Hendrix. I don't think it's going to be somebody that's learned everything on YouTube, and doesn't have as much individuality as there was in the old days. And I feel like I'm starting to sound like an old geezer, but yeah, it's going to be somebody who doesn't know how to play right. It's going to be somebody who doesn't execute it the same as everybody else. He's going to stand out and he's going to shine, and I hope that happens.
I certainly hope so too. And it's like that when you're playing out in the woods and no interference with electronics and internet, etc. You're training your ear, my friend, and ear training is great. Bending the chords to match.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
Now, thank you very much for taking the time, basically, Jake. This is a great treat for me. Few more questions before I have to let you go, because you probably got lots of stuff to do and feed the cats more, etc. Let's say I want to talk about the new video you made, Havana. Like, what's your take on making music videos nowadays? I mean, the quality's right there. It's got to be easier nowadays, I figure, to film videos and still get great quality. How's filming life for you?
Well, it's still distasteful for me. I don't like mimicking myself.
Right.
As far as doing a video, I know I got some shit about not plugging my guitar in in the video, and because I don't see the point in it. I'm not plugged into an amplifier. I'm not playing this live. But, you know, we're going to be doing 2 more videos next week, and I will plug the fucking guitar in.
Good.
Because I understand it helps promote the fact that it is being played live. I got to approach it more like a movie, you know, where you see a great fight scene. Yeah, it's a movie. It's all make-believe. But you want to believe it. So I will plug my guitar in for the next videos, and but it's still, it's not, and it wouldn't have deterred me earlier on, but it wasn't a factor when I was growing up, when I was a kid in the 60s and 70s learning to play guitar. Doing videos wasn't one of the aspects of it, and it's a pain in the ass, but it also helps promote the songs, and that's the most important thing. I won't take it as far as Richie Blackmore, who I saw this one video of him in Deep Purple, and they were doing some, I think it was a German show, but it was obviously the song playing, and they were pretending like they're playing along with it.
Yeah.
And you could just tell that Blackmore had no interest in doing it at all. He's just kind of leaning against his amp, lazily looking over, and not even particularly playing the right notes. He was just fiddling on his guitar while the song's playing. And then the best part was when the solo came up, he turned his guitar over, so the pickup side was facing him, and he played the solo on the back of the neck.
That's cool.
I loved that. It was hilarious. But yeah, I kind of had the same attitude as him, but I'll work a little harder to make it look like I'm actually playing.
Oh my god, I remember that footage too. I've seen it before. That's so funny.
It was hilarious. It made me love Blackmore all the more.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if the guy can play a solo in back of his guitar like that, that's got to be quite some technical skills he's got. Jake, one question here. One of my favorite shows, Playing Us Festival. Do you recall the feeling you got there, and arriving in front of all those people and playing with a black glove on your hand, making things complicated with a glove, and just looking cool, and just, was that really your first Ozzy Osbourne show?
No.
Okay.
I've read that, but no. The first show was a nightmare, really. I'd come over to England to rehearse with the band. I think we did 3 rehearsals, and I basically had the songs down, but it was all the gear. I had my own guitar, but well, actually, at first I didn't even have my own guitar. I had to borrow somebody's guitar, and it was all rental gear and trying to get a sound out of these amps. I remember it was an issue for me. I got to go and do a Lemmy story since I'm saying this. And I know, I'm sure you won't mind because Lemmy stories are always good.
Oh, yeah.
That's the first time I met Lemmy. We're at somewhere in London at a rehearsal hall where there was other bands rehearsing, and the rest of the band went to the pub to go drink. I stayed behind to work on getting a good sound out of the amps that I had, and then I looked over in the doorway, and I recognized that was Lemmy. He's leaning up in the doorway, had a big bottle of vodka in one hand, and he's just staring at me. And so I put my guitar down and said, "Hi, I'm the new guy in Ozzy's band. My name's Jake. You're Lemmy." And I went to put my hand out to shake it, and he didn't do anything. He just kept staring at me. And he said, eventually he said, "I don't know whether to fuck you or fight you." So I'm just standing there frozen, and I look at the bottle of vodka in his hand. I said, "Well, whichever one you choose, can I hit it? Can I hit that vodka bottle first?" And he just started laughing and said, "Oh, I like you." And so we just started drinking vodka together. But that's my Lemmy story.
Wow, that's awesome.
I loved Lemmy. He was such a great guy. Anyway, so we have 3 rehearsals.
Yeah.
They have a guy assigned to me to be my tech. We show up. We're opening for Whitesnake, which for me was absurd because Ozzy was huge in America, and Whitesnake at that time in '83 was they were unheard of in America. They were huge everywhere else. But so right away I'm thinking, wow, I joined Ozzy Osbourne, but I must have joined the wrong one because we're opening for Whitesnake.
Oh, strange there.
And but I got past that. So anyway, we're the opening band, and as an opening band, you don't get much of a sound check. We were playing in, I believe, Finland, and it was in a ice hockey rink. And I remember it was really cold, and I plugged into the amp, and I for the sound check. Like I said, it wasn't even a sound check. The audience was already there. I was just coming out to make sure my shit worked, which is when I realized all the amps that were up on stage were not the ones that I'd done rehearsals with, and I had no idea what they sounded like. So I plugged into the first amp, hit a chord, nothing comes out. I'm like, okay, what the fuck's going on? And my tech bailed. I don't know why, but I did not have anybody that I could look to. I think the monitor guy came over and said, "Are you having problems?" I said, "Yeah." I'm plugging into an amp and nothing's coming out. So now there's a big hustle back there. Everybody on stage is going back there trying to plug in different heads and different cabinets. Finally, we find one that works, and it's really a shitty sound, but we're on in like a minute.
Oh my God.
The rest of the band's out there. They're ready to start playing, and the opening, whatever that operatic piece is that Ozzy opens his show, it was playing, and we're still trying to find. Finally, I'm getting a sound. Now, they moved the mic over to the cabinet, and like I said, it was a shitty sound. I had no time to try to fix it. And the first song was I Don't Know, which is guitar, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, Tommy counts me in, and I start playing it with this really shitty tone. But the cabinet, all the speakers didn't work in it, and the one that they mic'd was not a working
oh my God.
speaker. So I'm playing, and there's this little shitty tinny sound coming off the stage, but it's not going through the PA. And then the band kicks in, and there's still no guitar. Nobody can hear the guitar. It was just, it was horrible. They moved the mic, found a speaker that was working.
During the song.
Yes, and the guitar was out of tune.
Of course.
And I didn't have time to tune it. I didn't have tuner. The tech had the tuner. I had no tuner. So here I am. If you could hear me, it was a horrible tone, and I was out of tune, and it was like a nightmare. It was my first gig with Ozzy Osbourne, and pretty much everything that could go wrong was going wrong. I mean, the only way it could have been worse is if, my pants fell down or something. It was terrible. And I remember after it was over, and it was painful. It was painful to do that show. After it was over, I'm walking back off the stage, and Ozzy comes up to me, and I'm sure he's going to say, "You're fired." But thank God for Ozzy, because he could have crushed me at that moment. He looked at me and said, "Well, it's only going to get better after this."
Wow.
and that made me feel a whole lot better. But yeah, that was a nightmare.
I mean,
thankfully the next show was a whole lot better, and it just kept getting better after that.
So let's say,
I think.
Yeah.
I think your original question was about the S Festival.
Yeah, but let's go back on this for a second. Let's say you're the guitar player of the Ozzy Osbourne, which is a guitar band, and your guitar's not even prepared and no amps prepared. That is weird.
It was really unprofessional. It was, I was surprised. I was still, for that whole first week, I was really kind of wondering if I wasn't just having a long-ass dream that, that I had joined Ozzy and all this shit that could happen on the first show did happen. And it was surreal, almost.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's the best story I ever heard. I can just picture it. Wow. Yeah, an Oz Festival.
It was terrible, and I'd met all the Whitesnake crew, or the guys in Whitesnake before, because they were all welcoming me aboard, like, "Hey,
wow,
welcome aboard, Jake." And I met Coverdale and
John Sykes.
One of my actual heroes growing up, Mel Galley.
Okay.
Because I loved his playing in Trapeze on that "You Are the Music, We're Just the Band." Yep. His playing was phenomenal and a huge influence on me. So I got to meet him and
Marsden.
Yeah,
Bernie Marsden.
Yep, and I remember the keyboard player, John Lord.
Yeah.
I met John Lord, and then afterward, that was before, and then afterwards, I remember walking backstage and just like keeping my head down low because I didn't want to see the looks on everybody's faces. like, wow, how bad did Ozzy fuck up getting this guy? But no, I made it through that first gig, and it got better, and did the European tour, and then we did some makeup dates in America on the East Coast that were canceled because of Randy's unfortunate passing. So we did a couple in America before the S Festival.
Okay.
But that was definitely the first time I ever played in front of 300,000 people.
It's interesting that they refer that to your first gig, but I really appreciate you letting me know what your real first gig was like. And
I wish it was the S Festival. That would have been such a more glorious introduction.
I do admire your introduction, though, the way you told me. I mean, I'm really picturing it in my head, and like a little ice rink arena, something like that. And also, did you have...
And to top it off, the people in front of me were holding a big "Welcome Brad Gillis" sign.
Oh.
and I at them, and they looked at me all confused, like, "Who the fuck are you?"
That is incredible. Wow. Jake, you got like a gold mine of a memory there. Your brain's working good.
I remember the big parts.
Well, that's great, man. Also, was Causey Powell the drummer for Whitesnake?
I think so. I think so. I was pretty much overwhelmed with just all these, I grew up listening to and admiring, and yeah, it went from such a, and Lemmy, from such a, like, wow, I'm in heaven, everything is so awesome right now, to being eclipsed with how horrible everything became within the next couple of minutes. It was, it gave me some character, I think.
And that Lemmy meeting was the first show too, was it?
Yeah, well, that was during the rehearsals, just before the first show.
Oh, okay, yeah. Just make sure, yeah. Well, Jake E. Lee, the legend himself, one of the best guitar players of all time. Thank you very much for taking the time with me.
Oh, no, yeah, it was my pleasure. I enjoyed this. It was, and we got to do a little more guitar talk, which I don't usually get to do.
I wonder why people don't go to that world, because that's the world you specialize in.
Yeah, but no, it usually doesn't go there, unless I'm bad-mouthing another guitar player.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's not good to badmouth other people.
I'm talking about.
I know, and I'm staying clear of that.
I will say that was out of character for me, and I won't go as far as saying I regret it, but my personal opinion should have stayed personal on that, and it's just you do so many interviews, and usually it's the same questions over and over, which thankfully you weren't. Thank you for that.
Welcome.
But it's usually the same questions over and over, and then when it goes off on a different tangent, you tend to relish it.
Right.
And I think I relished that Yngwie part a little too much. But, hey, whatever. Live and learn.
But Jake, also, when the media type come in and starts drilling people, they want that stuff. They want the drama to keep on going. So, I try to keep it, on the artist itself, representing you tonight. We're not going to represent anybody else.
Well, I appreciate that. And, the unfortunate part is that the whole Yngwie thing probably got me more press than any other interview I've done.
Well, what happens there, it gives press to the people that did the interview, and then it gives press to you, in certain ways, and I don't know, it's interesting, but I know you're a good person, so all's great. And you shined in this interview, so that's all that matters.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
I think so. All right. Well, Jake, man, awesome. I really appreciate this again, and hope you have a great week and weekend, and keep busy. And you have a good one, man. Hopefully we talk again soon.
Yeah, I'd like that. Yeah, thank you.
You're real welcome.